Common Ground Food Co-op in Urbana. We're at Lincoln Square Mall, if you haven't been there. And just to tell you a little bit about Common Ground. Common Ground was started in 1974 by actually the Illinois Disciple Foundation at the corner of 6th and Wright. What they did is they went to the community around them that at the time was very low income and said, what do you most need here in the community? What can we help to provide? What they said was access to healthy food that's affordable. It was a food desert area, actually, other than the co-op was until just a year ago, in that you couldn't find any food, actually grocery food. There was only convenience stores and restaurants, and there was no access to fresh produce or meats or cheeses or eggs or anything like that. So what they did is they started a buying group, and they would actually drive a truck to Wisconsin, fill it up with organic food, come back, hit some farms, grab some eggs, some Amish farms, and whatever else they get their hands on, come back, and everyone showed up and emptied the truck and took their food home. And it's a cooperative, it always has been. What a cooperative means is it's actually owned by the people who utilize it. So right now, Common Ground has over 2,400 people who live in Champaign-Urbana or surrounding cities that own Common Ground. And they are the only owners of Common Ground. They vote amongst themselves to create the board of directors. The board of directors hires me, their one and only employee, the general manager, and then I hire my staff. And everyone, it was until a year and a half ago, everyone who walked in the door was an owner, who had to be an owner to shop there. We're now open to the public, and anyone can shop. I'm proud to say that still over 80% of our revenues come from owners shopping in our store. A lot of people choosing to become owners. Our ownership went up over 600 people this last year. And is constantly growing. And the co-op's been made a move to Lincoln Square in August of 2008 and has been successful beyond our expectations, and has been able to more than double how much food we're sourcing locally and selling out of the store. So it started from these beginnings to make healthy food economically accessible. The neighborhood changed, and so did the involvement. It quickly moved into a real focus on growing the organic and local foods movements. And has continued that direction since. Our current mission is to support local and organic foods, sustainable lifestyles, and to grow community, which is a big part of co-ops. Not all food co-ops focus on local and organic, although 95% do. That you don't have to be focused on those things to be defined as a co-op. To be defined as a co-op, you have to be owned by the people who utilize the services of the business. So that's just that. Our focus is, though, strongly on local and working with farmers. But it's an interesting aspect. When I discussed it, I kind of take it for granted now that Leah pointed out it's kind of interesting, is we're in the breadbasket of America, or surrounded by farms, so everyone's like, oh, when they walk in, all this food is local. And actually, the reality is that we probably have just about the lowest percentage of local food, of food co-ops in America, in this region. And the reason being because our farmland is extremely expensive, because it is so fertile, and because it's wonderfully flat. It's great for corporate farming. And so it's very, again, expensive, very. So it's hard for small farmers to get in and get land here. It's a problem. And so when you go to the coasts, I've been to co-ops on both coasts, they have local everything. Some of them, 50% of their sales are coming from local food, and there are full-service grocery stores. They have bananas. I mean, just, you know, all this stuff that we couldn't possibly grow ourselves. But still, 50% of the food running through their register is coming from local. For us, we are proud that we made it to just barely 20% for the first time ever in this last year. Yes.
What is your definition of local?
Thank you for bringing that up. No, it's great. We actually just started formalizing the process. It's always been kind of taken for granted that we source as local as possible. People have just said, oh, it's the co-op. You know, they do that. And so we went to all these other co-ops, and we found, actually, we were kind of surprised how loose their definitions were. A lot of them, we just went to some co-ops in Milwaukee, and most of you probably know where Milwaukee is in the map of Wisconsin. It's on the coast of the lake. It's very close to Illinois. And they say anything from Wisconsin is local. But if you grew it in Waukegan, where I grew up, which is 10 minutes over the border, it is not local. And that's pretty common, and we're uncomfortable with that. And so we actually have a commission of staff members at the moment who are working on defining local and coming up with policy. Right now, we are leaning toward 150 miles of circumference, although it's interesting to know what U of I is doing, because it might be a good idea to sync up. So we're in the middle of finishing that up and having a tight definition So we can tell people, and they can know when they come in what to expect and not just have to trust us. We want it to be transparent. We're also defining regional right now and what that means. And we're taking it a step further. You will see the local label. There's a food co-op in Carbondale, very successful, 3 times our size, that the local is Illinois for them. And they slap the local label on, what's the name of the brand? It's a brand of salsa that you can find just about everywhere, organic, for a famous Mexican chef, or just does Mexican food. And you can see it all over the country, it's everywhere. And they say local. And we were a little uncomfortable with that, and that definition. It is produced in Chicago at the moment, but they're looking at actually taking the processing out of the area, so forth. Bringing the tomatoes here is expensive; they perish very easily, and so we slap local on that, you know. And so what we've started talking about is locally produced as a label, and then locally processed, locally created. We do have Patrick's Raw Foods. We have a strong raw foods community. He produces raw foods for us, but all of his ingredients, most of them, don't come from a local source. You know, so we're looking at even more so. Like regional is really easy. There's a ton of companies we deal with that we get from a major distributor, not directly from a company. They're coming from somewhere in the region, and we want to promote that. But we also want to talk about when we call regional direct. When we go directly to that source, buy directly from them and know their practices personally, and know it isn't being shipped to a big warehouse in Greensboro, Indiana, and then shipped to us. So there's less shipping, there's more direct happening. And there's arguments, that's going to be a long argument, but anyway, we're looking at being very precise so people understand where things are coming from, why we've made the choices we've made. So there is that. The other reason that I think local is an important thing to consider if you're worried about clean food and worried about safe food, if organic means anything to you, is there's a troubling trend going on right now in organic food. Unfortunately, in the last 10 years, a distributor called United Natural Foods has bought out almost every small natural foods distributor in the country. They are basically the Walmart of natural food. And they control all distribution of 60% of the food we sell. So we're beholden to them, and we don't have another source. And they have started to slowly, because Whole Foods is their main client, 50% of their business comes from Whole Food. Whole Foods has started to do this interesting thing. We all believe when we walk into Whole Foods that everything there is 100% organic and clean. So they have started to carry more and more products that are natural. They aren't organic, they aren't certified as organic, but you assume they're organic because it has similar packaging and it's on Whole Foods' shelf. UNFI is open to this demand, bringing in more and more of that food, charging the same price as organic food, and they are pushing out organic producers of food. So there are things we can't get organic anymore. Just starting to happen, but we can't get it organic from the only organic food distributor available to us. And so the power they have is immense to change this argument and to get rid of organic, to disempower it. So I think it's important to think about how important it is going to be to know where your food comes from for us to have any say at all and how this argument goes. So local food has a really important role to play in that. And I just wanted to share that. One other quick thing I want to talk about, we are right now working with the Illinois Green Business Association. We're going to be one of the first businesses that are going to be certified by them. It's a new body here in the state of Illinois. We're very excited about our involvement with them. And we are a zero food waste grocery store. So if we can't use it, if it's out of date, we can't sell it, it is donated to the Catholic Worker House or several other charities in town. Our produce, if it can't be donated or can't be used, is composted through a volunteer program and taken to gardens in the community. We have absolutely zero food waste that leaves the grocery store, which is pretty remarkable in the grocery industry.